Commander Jack Collins floated near the viewport of the International Space Station. His heart raced as he stared at the massive alien ship that had appeared just hours ago. It was sleek and silver, at least 5 times larger than the space station, and it hovered silently against the backdrop of Earth. "Are you seeing this?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm seeing it," replied Dr. Olivia Wright, who floated up beside him. "After all our years of searching, they found us first." The alien vessel had arrived without warning. It simply appeared in Earth's orbit, bypassing all detection systems. Within minutes, it broadcast a message in perfect English to every communication device on the planet. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are representatives of the Galactic Council, a peaceful federation of advanced species. We come with an invitation." That was 6 hours ago. Now Jack and Olivia waited as the station's airlock prepared to receive the first extraterrestrial visitors in human history. "Remember the protocol," said Director Paul Wilson through their earpieces. "Be welcoming but cautious. The entire world is watching." The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss. Jack held his breath as 3 figures glided into the module. They were tall and slender with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. Their eyes were large and silver with no visible pupils. They wore simple white garments that floated around their bodies like liquid. "We welcome you to Earth," Jack said, following the carefully prepared script. The tallest alien stepped forward. "I am Zax Tall, Supreme Arbiter of the Galactic Council. We have observed your world for many years. Your species has finally reached a development stage where formal contact is permitted. Over the next few days, more council representatives arrived. They set up a base on the moon and invited Earth's leaders to discuss terms of membership in their interstellar community. The aliens promised to share technology, help solve Earth's environmental problems, and introduce humans to a galaxy teeming with life. "This is everything we ever dreamed of," Olivia said one evening, reviewing the data the aliens had shared about faster-than-light travel. She and Jack had been assigned as the primary scientific liaisons with the council members. Jack nodded, but something bothered him. "Don't you think it's strange they're so eager to help? What do they get out of this arrangement?" Olivia looked up from her tablet. "They said they value diversity. Each species brings unique perspectives to their federation." "Maybe," Jack said, but the doubt remained. For 6 months, Earth celebrated. Council representatives visited major cities, met with scientists, and began teaching humans about technologies beyond their imagination. The economy boomed with the promise of interstellar trade. Wars and conflicts paused as nations united in preparation for joining the galactic community. In Geneva, inside a specially built dome, Earth's leaders gathered for the official signing ceremony. UN Secretary-General Samuel Garcia stood before representatives from every nation and a dozen alien dignitaries. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for humanity," Garcia said, smiling at the cameras broadcasting to billions around the world. "With our entry into the Galactic Council, we take our place among the stars." Zax Tall approached the podium, his silver eyes scanning the crowd. Jack stood at attention nearby, proudly wearing his formal uniform as part of the honor guard. But, as the alien began to speak, Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "We thank Earth for its willing participation in these proceedings," Zax Tall said, his voice eerily calm. "However, there has been a decision by the Council's inner circle regarding humanity's status." The room grew quiet. "After careful study of human history and behavior patterns, the Council has determined that full membership is not possible at this time. Your species is deemed too unpredictable and violent for unrestricted interaction with galactic civilization." Garcia stepped forward. "What are you saying? This isn't what we agreed to." "The terms have been adjusted," Zax Tall continued. "Earth will be placed under protective quarantine. We will establish supervision centers to manage resource extraction. Human populations will be relocated to designated reservation areas where you can develop in a controlled manner." Gasps and shouts filled the room. Garcia's face flushed with anger. "This is an invasion. We will not accept these terms." Zax Toll's expression never changed. Your acceptance is not required. The decision is final. Jack locked eyes with Olivia across the room. The horror on her face mirrored his own realization. They had been deceived from the beginning. Before anyone could react further, a high-pitched tone filled the air. Jack watched in shock as Garcia and the other human leaders slumped in their chairs unconscious. Only the military personnel like himself seemed unaffected, protected by neural blockers that were standard issue for security forces at diplomatic events. "Remain calm," said one of the alien delegates. "Your leaders will awaken shortly. They will accept the new arrangement." Jack's training kicked in. "Marines, secure the exits," he ordered the nearby soldiers. "Now." But it was too late. Outside, the dome, strange aircraft appeared in the sky over Geneva. Similar reports flooded in from around the world. The Council's true invasion force had arrived while Earth celebrated their friendship. Within hours, satellites went dark. Military bases reported direct hits from weapons that sliced through their strongest defenses like paper. Major cities found themselves under the shadow of enormous ships that hovered silently overhead. In an underground bunker outside Washington, D.C., Jack stood with the few military leaders who had escaped the initial attack. Reports from around the world painted a grim picture. Earth's most powerful weapons had barely scratched the alien vessels. "They were studying us," Jack said, his voice rough with emotion. "Learning our weaknesses, our defense systems. The whole friendship was a lie." General Nancy Rivera nodded grimly. "We need to go dark, establish communication with whatever forces remain, and start planning resistance operations." On a screen nearby, they watched as Zaxtol addressed the world from what used to be the United Nations building. His message was simple. Resistance was pointless and would only bring suffering. But as Jack looked around at the determined faces in the bunker, he knew humanity would not go quietly. The Galactic Council had made a crucial mistake. They had studied human history but failed to understand the human spirit. "They think they know us," Jack said, standing taller. "They think we'll surrender when faced with superior technology. But they don't understand what happens when humans have their backs against the wall." General Rivera smiled grimly. "Then let's show them. The war for Earth begins now." Major Lisa Reeves pressed her back against a crumbling wall and peered around the corner. Two alien patrol units hovered 3 feet above the ground, scanning the ruins of Chicago with pulsing blue lights. Their egg-shaped bodies gleamed in the afternoon sun. Lisa waited until they passed, then signaled to her team to move forward. 6 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council revealed their true intentions. 6 weeks of fighting, hiding, and struggling to survive. The aliens had expected Earth to surrender within days. They had not counted on humanity's stubborn refusal to give up. "Clear," whispered Carlos Diaz, her second in command. The small group darted across the debris-filled street toward the entrance of an old subway station. Lisa's resistance cell consisted of 23 people, a mix of military survivors and civilians who had nowhere else to go. They moved through the underground tunnels with practiced ease, using paths they had carefully mapped to avoid alien detection systems. Half a mile in, they reached their destination, a former maintenance area now serving as one of the largest resistance bunkers in the Midwest. As Lisa entered, she was greeted by the hum of generators and the glow of salvaged equipment. "Major, you're back," said Professor Alan Mitchell, looking up from his workbench. The former physics teacher had become invaluable to the resistance. His ability to understand and adapt alien technology had saved countless lives. Lisa nodded. "We found what you asked for." She handed him a small metal container. Inside was a damaged component from a downed alien scout ship. Alan's eyes lit up. "Excellent. This might be the missing piece we need." In the weeks following the invasion, survivors around the world had learned to communicate using old radio equipment and repurposed satellite phones. They discovered they weren't alone in fighting back. From isolated military bases to makeshift civilian camps, resistance pockets formed on every continent. Lisa called her team together. "Report from the Western Alliance just came in," she said, pointing to a map spread across a table. "They've confirmed our findings. The aliens have established major processing centers in these locations. She marked several spots across North America. They're setting up for large-scale resource extraction. What about civilian populations? Asked Emma Parker, a former emergency room nurse who now handled their medical needs. They're being rounded up and moved to reservation zones, Lisa replied, the disgust clear in her voice. Essentially work camps. The room fell silent. Everyone had lost someone in the initial attacks. Carlos spoke up. What's the plan, Major? We can't just keep hiding. We don't intend to, Lisa said. Professor Mitchell has been working on something. Alan stepped forward. The aliens rely on quantum entanglement for their communications, he explained, pointing to the dismantled alien tech spread across his workbench. It allows for instant messaging across vast distances without radio waves we could intercept, but it creates a unique energy pattern we can detect and potentially disrupt. He held up a small device with wires sticking out from all sides. This prototype can create targeted interference. In simple terms, it gives us a way to temporarily blind them. Lisa nodded. And we're not the only ones making progress. NASA engineer Kelly Rodriguez, who's working with the resistance cell in Houston, discovered something even more significant. She held up a tablet showing a video message from a woman working in what looked like a warehouse. The alien ships are partially biological, Kelly explained in the recording. They respond negatively to certain radioactive isotopes common on Earth, but apparently rare in the wider galaxy. We're working on weapons that use this weakness. Hope was a luxury few could afford these days, but Lisa saw it flicker across her team's faces for the first time in weeks. We're sharing this information with every resistance cell we can reach, Lisa continued, but we need to do more than just survive. We need to start fighting back in a coordinated way. Later that night, Lisa sat alone reviewing their dwindling supplies. Food was running low. Medical supplies were almost gone. They needed a win, something to prove that humanity had a chance. A commotion at the tunnel entrance caught her attention. 2 scouts rushed in, supporting a wounded man between them. We found him being chased by a patrol, one explained as Emma hurried over to examine the injury. The man looked up at Lisa, his face pale from blood loss. Major Reeves? He asked weakly. Lisa knelt beside him. That's me. I'm Sergeant Peter Walsh. I've been trying to reach you for 3 days. General Rivera sent me. Lisa's heart raced. Nancy Rivera had been one of the few high-ranking officers to escape the initial attack. If she was organizing forces. What's the message? Lisa asked. Peter winced as Emma cleaned his wound. They're planning something big, a coordinated attack against multiple alien installations. They're calling it Operation Thunderstrike. Over. The next few days, resistance cells across the country received similar messengers. From hidden bases in the Rocky Mountains, General Rivera and her staff had been gathering intelligence and developing a plan that seemed impossible. A global counterattack against the technologically superior invaders. Lisa's team worked day and night to build more of Alan's disruption devices and modify their weapons according to Kelly Rodriguez's specifications. Similar preparations were happening in resistance bunkers worldwide. On the 5th day, a secure transmission came through with the details of their role in Operation Thunderstrike. Lisa gathered her team around the communications equipment. We strike in 3 days, she said, studying the determined faces around her. Our target is the processing center they're building at the old steel mill. The attack will be coordinated with similar strikes around the world at exactly 300 GMT. Carlos frowned. That's just 23 of us against their entire compound. Lisa smiled grimly. We won't be alone. Resistance cells from Detroit and Milwaukee will converge with us, and we'll have these. She held up one of Alan's disruption devices and a rifle modified with the isotope ammunition. For the first time since the invasion, humanity was about to take the offensive. The aliens believed they were dealing with scattered, disorganized survivors. They were about to learn how dangerous humans could be when fighting for their home. As her team prepared weapons and studied the attack plans, Lisa thought about what Jack Collins had said before they lost contact with his bunker. They don't understand what happens when humans have their backs against the wall. The Galactic Council was about to find out. Captain Greg Winters crawled through tall grass on the outskirts of what used to be Sydney, Australia. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council began their occupation of Earth, and tonight, humanity would finally strike back. The Alien Command Center stood half a mile away, a towering structure of gleaming metal that seemed to grow out of the ground like a strange tree. Blue lights pulsed along its surface as patrol ships circled overhead. "Team in position," whispered Karen Lee through Greg's earpiece. She led one of the 4 squads surrounding the facility. "Copy that," Greg replied. "Remember, we wait for the signal." Beside him, Joe Franklin checked his modified rifle one last time. The weapon looked like a standard military assault rifle, but its ammunition had been enhanced with the radioactive isotopes that Kelly Rodriguez's team had discovered were harmful to alien biology. The rifle also included Professor Mitchell's disruption technology, which could temporarily jam the aliens' communication systems. "Think this will actually work?" Joe asked quietly. Greg nodded. "It has to." Operation Thunderstrike was humanity's first coordinated offensive against their technologically superior enemy. For weeks, resistance forces worldwide had prepared, sharing information through hidden communication networks. Teams had been assigned targets in every major alien installation across the globe. The plan was simple but daring: strike simultaneously and exploit the weaknesses humans had discovered in alien technology. At exactly 0259 GMT, Greg checked his watch. 1 minute to go. Around the world, other resistance teams were in similar positions, waiting for the same signal. In the Rocky Mountains, General Nicole Patterson stood in the resistance headquarters, surrounded by makeshift communications equipment. The bunker buzzed with activity as operators maintained contact with resistance cells globally. "All teams report ready," said her communications officer. Nicole nodded. "Send the go code." At precisely 0300 GMT, a simple message traveled through the resistance network. "Thunderstrike is go." In orbit, a cobbled-together fleet of pre-invasion military satellites, reprogrammed by Lieutenant Doug Martinez and his team of computer specialists, activated simultaneously. The satellites fired targeted electromagnetic pulses at the alien ships in Earth's orbit, temporarily disabling their early warning systems. On the ground, resistance teams moved into action. "That's our signal," Greg told his team. "Move out." The all 4 squads converged on the Sydney Command Center from different directions. As they approached, Greg activated his disruption device. A soft hum filled the air as the alien communication system within their immediate area went dark. The effect was immediate. The patrol ships overhead faltered, losing coordination with the ground forces. Guard units at the facility entrances moved erratically, their normally precise movements becoming confused. "Now!" Greg ordered. His team rushed forward, firing their modified weapons at the alien guards. Where conventional weapons had barely scratched alien armor in previous encounters, the isotope-enhanced ammunition tore through it. The strange, blue-skinned beings fell back in confusion. Similar scenes played out at alien installations around the world. In Chicago, Major Lisa Reeves led her team into the processing center at the old steel mill. In Berlin, resistance fighters attacked the Council's European headquarters. Across Africa, South America, and Asia, humans who had been hiding and planning for months finally took action. Greg's team fought their way into the Sydney Command Center. The alien technology inside was far beyond human understanding, but they didn't need to understand it to destroy it. They placed explosive charges at key points throughout the facility, based on structural weaknesses identified by resistance intelligence. "Charges set," Karen reported, rejoining Greg in what appeared to be the main control room. 10 minutes until detonation. Greg nodded, then froze as he noticed something odd. Unlike the guards outside who had fought back, the aliens in the command center, clearly higher-ranking officials based on their elaborate clothing, were not fighting. They were retreating, some even abandoning their posts entirely. "They're running," Joe said in disbelief. Greg watched as an especially tall alien hurried toward an escape vessel. "They weren't expecting us to fight back like this. They're afraid." This realization changed everything. The Galactic Council, with its vastly superior technology and resources, had assumed Earth would be an easy conquest. They had never faced a species that refused to follow the expected patterns of defeat. "All teams begin evacuation," Greg ordered. "Let's get clear before those charges blow." As they retreated, Greg's team captured valuable alien technology and data storage devices. These would be crucial for resistance scientists to study. Across the world, similar victories were being reported. Not every strike went perfectly. There were heavy casualties among resistance forces in some locations. But for the first time since the invasion, humanity had taken the offensive and succeeded. From her command post in the Rockies, General Dekau, Patterson received the reports with growing excitement. 70% of targeted facilities have been hit successfully, her intelligence officer reported. Alien response has been disorganized and slower than predicted. Nicole nodded. What about our orbital operation? Lieutenant Martinez reports partial success. They disabled the Council's early warning network long enough for our ground teams to strike. They're also reporting something unexpected. Some of the smaller alien vessels appear to be leaving Earth orbit entirely. This news spread quickly through resistance channels. The aliens weren't just retreating from individual battles. Some were actually abandoning Earth. In Australia, Greg and his team watched from a safe distance as the Sydney Command Center erupted in a series of explosions. Cheers broke out among the resistance fighters. "This is just the beginning," Greg told them as they prepared to move to their fallback position. "The war isn't over, but now they know we aren't going to surrender." As dawn broke over Sydney, resistance communications buzzed with similar reports from around the globe. Operation Thunderstrike had succeeded beyond their most optimistic predictions. In a single coordinated attack, humans had reclaimed dozens of strategic locations and destroyed key alien infrastructure. More importantly, they had discovered something that would change the course of the war. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens could be frightened, and a frightened enemy could be defeated. As Greg's team disappeared into the Australian wilderness, he allowed himself to feel something he hadn't felt in months: hope. The Galactic Council had declared war on Earth, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened humanity's unstoppable fury. Dr. Olivia Wright adjusted her microscope and stared at the strange blue cells on the slide. 6 months had passed since the initial invasion, and humanity had reclaimed nearly 40% of occupied territory. Operation Thunderstrike had been just the beginning. As aliens retreated from one location after another, humans pushed forward, growing more confident with each victory. "Fascinating," Olivia muttered. She had been working in a repurposed laboratory beneath Denver, studying alien biology with the help of a most unusual research partner. Krelvox, a captured council scientist, watched from across the room. Unlike the other aliens, who were tall, with blue skin, Krelvox was shorter with green-tinted skin and 4 fingers on each hand. Thin metal bands around his wrists prevented him from leaving the facility, but he moved freely within the lab. "You see something interesting, Dr. Wright?" he asked in his melodic accent. Olivia straightened up. "These cellular structures respond differently to Earth's bacteria than I expected. It's almost as if..." She paused, considering her words carefully. "It's almost as if your species has no natural defenses against Earth's microorganisms." Krelvox made a sound that might have been a sigh. "That is correct. Most council worlds have been sterilized of harmful microbes for thousands of years. Earth's biological diversity is unsettling to us. This explained so much. Since Operation Thunderstrike, resistance forces had noticed that aliens seemed increasingly cautious about direct contact with humans or exposure to Earth's environment. Some even wore protective suits when outside their ships." "Krelvox, why did the Council really invade Earth?" Olivia asked. It was a question she had posed many times over the months, but today she sensed he might finally give her a straight answer. The alien scientist stared at her for a long moment. "The Council fears you," he said simply. "Fears us? With all your advanced technology?" "Technology is not everything." Krelvox moved closer to her microscope. "Most sentient species evolved to fill specific ecological niches, with specialized adaptations. Gathorians evolved to process silicon. Mentak can photosynthesize energy directly from their sun. But humans, he gestured at Olivia. Humans are generalists. You can survive almost anywhere, eat almost anything, learn almost any skill. He pointed to the cells on the slide. Look at how your body fights infection. Your immune system adapts to new threats with remarkable speed. This pattern repeats in everything humans do. You take new ideas, new challenges, and adapt to them faster than any species the Council has encountered. Olivia considered this. So the invasion wasn't just about resources. Resources are plentiful in the galaxy. The Council invaded Earth to contain what they saw as a potential threat to galactic stability. A species that adapts too quickly, spreads too far, changes too much. This frightens the older races. This revelation spread quickly through resistance channels. Humanity wasn't fighting just for survival, but for their right to exist, without constraints imposed by fearful aliens. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Commander Eric Simmons led a small team on a daring raid. Their target was a Council research vessel hovering above the former site of Barcelona, Spain. Remember, this is strictly intelligence gathering, Eric told his 5 teammates as their stolen alien shuttle approached the larger ship. We get in, download their data and get out. Their shuttle had been captured during Operation Thunderstrike and modified by resistance engineers. It transmitted authentic Council identification codes, allowing them to dock without raising alarms. Docking complete, said Mia Gonzalez, their pilot. Security systems bypassed. The team moved silently through the research vessel's corridors, following maps created from information provided by captured aliens like Krelvox. They encountered few crew members, another sign that Council forces were stretching thin as they lost ground on Earth. In the ship's central data chamber, Eric connected a special device designed by resistance technicians. It began downloading the vessel's database while bypassing security measures. 2 minutes until download complete, whispered Steve Rogers, watching the progress bar on their device. But it was the physical evidence in the chamber that caught Eric's attention. The walls displayed images of dozens of worlds, planets with varied terrain, some looking strikingly Earth-like. Each image was marked with Council symbols. These aren't random planets, Mia said, checking the translations on her device. These are other occupied worlds. Look at these dates. Some conquest happened centuries ago. Eric felt a chill. Earth wasn't the first world they tried to subjugate under the guise of peaceful contact. But according to these records, Steve added, pointing to flashing data points, we're the first to fight back successfully. The device beeped, indicating the download was complete. As they prepared to leave, Eric made a decision. Change of plans. We're taking these star charts too. He pointed to a physical storage unit that appeared to contain stellar navigation data. Back on Earth, in the Resistance headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Nicole Patterson received the intelligence from both Olivia's research and Eric's raid. The picture it painted changed everything. The Council has been doing this for thousands of years, she told her assembled command staff. They find developing worlds, pretend to offer friendship, then subjugate them for resources and to prevent potential competition. But why are we the first to successfully resist? Asked Major Lisa Reeves, who had been promoted after her success during Operation Thunderstrike. Because we're unpredictable, Nicole answered. Adaptable in ways they don't understand. And now we have something even more powerful, information about other conquered worlds. The Resistance had captured enough alien communication technology to attempt something never before possible. A message to these other subjugated planets. Using the stellar coordinates from the research vessel and communication frequencies discovered by Resistance scientists, Earth broadcast a simple message: you are not alone. Earth is fighting back against the Galactic Council and winning. Join us. For 2 weeks there was no response. Then, as Resistance forces prepared for another offensive against Council positions in Asia, their communication systems detected unusual signals. General, we're receiving transmissions from a dozen different star systems, reported the communications officer, his voice filled with disbelief. The messages varied in format and language, but translation programs quickly decoded their meaning. One by one, planets that had been under Council control for generations were rising up. Inspired by Earth's example, species that had long accepted their fate as second-class members of the galactic community were fighting for their freedom. In her laboratory, Olivia shared this news with Krelvox. The alien scientist's reaction surprised her. He smiled. "Your species truly is remarkable," he said. "In less than a year, you have done what no other species thought possible. You have not only fought the Council to a standstill, you have fundamentally changed the galaxy's power structure." Olivia stared at the incoming transmissions on her screen. "The Council is facing rebellions on multiple worlds." "Yes," Krelvox agreed. "And they have never faced such a situation before. They do not know how to respond." For the first time in its 5,000-year history, the Galactic Council faced a multi-front war against species they had long considered inferior. And at the center of this galactic revolution stood humanity, a species that had gone from peaceful isolation to the leaders of an interstellar rebellion in less than a year. The tide of the war had turned not just on Earth but across the stars. Admiral Susan Banks stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance and looked out at the stars. 1 year had passed since the Galactic Council's invasion, and humanity had not only survived, they had thrived. The ship beneath her feet was proof of how far they had come. The Defiance was the first human-built starship incorporating reverse-engineered alien technology. It was not as elegant as Council vessels, with its bulky shape and visible weld lines, but it represented something the aliens had never expected: humanity's unstoppable drive to adapt and overcome. "All systems ready, Admiral," reported Captain Ray Wilson from his station. "The fleet is awaiting your command." Susan nodded. Around the Defiance, 11 similar vessels moved into formation. Each carried the best weapons humans had developed, combining Earth technology with the alien systems they had captured and understood. The ships were crewed by soldiers and scientists from every nation on Earth. Former enemies now worked side by side, united by the struggle for survival. "Open fleet-wide channel," Susan ordered. When the communications officer nodded, she addressed the crews of all 12 ships. "Today we make history. 1 year ago, the Galactic Council came to Earth with promises of peace while planning our enslavement. They thought we would surrender when faced with their superior technology. Instead, we fought back." She paused, looking at the determined faces of her bridge crew. "Now we take the fight to them. We are not seeking revenge. We are seeking justice. For Earth and for all the worlds the Council has subjugated. Our mission is clear. Reach the Council homeworld and force them to recognize our right to exist freely among the stars." Cheers erupted across the communication channels. Susan gave the order, and the fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives, technology that humans had barely dreamed of before the invasion, now built by human hands. The stars blurred around them as the ships jumped into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. Back on Earth, in Resistance headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Nicole Patterson watched the fleet's departure on her monitors. Beside her stood Krelvox, the alien scientist who had defected to humanity's side. "Do you think they'll succeed?" Nicole asked. Krelvox tilted his head in the gesture humans had learned meant consideration. "The Council has never faced a situation like this. Their strategies are thousands of years old, designed for maintaining control, not fighting a multi-front rebellion." That rebellion had grown beyond anyone's expectations. After Earth's message reached other subjugated worlds, uprising spread, like wildfire. Species that had lived under Council rule for generations remembered their independence and fought to reclaim it. "We've received new transmissions from the Thrall system," reported a communications officer. "Their resistance forces have taken control of 3 major Council bases." Similar reports came in daily. The careful order the Council had maintained for millennia was crumbling. And at the center of this galactic revolution stood humanity, AI species that had gone from peaceful isolation to interstellar influence in just 1 year. After 3 days of faster-than-light travel, Admiral Banks' fleet arrived at their destination, Exilis Prime, the Council homeworld. It was a beautiful planet with 3 moons and rings similar to Saturn's. Massive cities covered large portions of its surface, gleaming with the advanced technology that had allowed the Council to dominate the galaxy for so long. "Multiple ships approaching," reported the sensor officer. "Council defense fleet moving to intercept." Susan remained calm. "Broadcast our message on all frequencies." The message was simple. Earth and its allies demanded negotiations to end Council aggression and recognize the independence of all worlds. There would be no planet-wide attacks, no destruction of civilian targets. This was not about revenge. The response came swiftly. "Human vessels, this is Supreme Arbiter Zaxtal. Your presence in our system is a violation of Council law. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Susan recognized the name, Zaxtal, the same alien who had betrayed Earth at the signing ceremony 1 year ago. "No response necessary," she told her communications officer. Then to her weapons officer. "Target their lead vessel's propulsion systems only. Show them what we can do." The Defiance fired a single shot, a concentrated burst of energy using technology the Council believed humans couldn't possibly understand yet. The alien flagship's engines went dark instantly. "Now send another message," Susan ordered. "Remind them that we disabled their ship without destroying it. We could have done much worse." What followed was not the battle many had expected, but a tense standoff. More Council ships arrived, but so did vessels from other rebelling worlds, former Council subjects who had thrown off their chains and joined Earth's cause. After 6 hours, a new message arrived from the planet's surface. The Council leadership was willing to meet. Susan led a small delegation to the planet. Joined by Frank Turner, Earth's newly appointed chief diplomat, they walked into the Grand Council chamber where the decision to invade Earth had been made. 1 year earlier, the Council leaders, representatives of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy, appeared shocked to see humans standing before them as equals rather than subjects. Frank stepped forward. "We come with simple terms. The old Council will be dissolved. All worlds previously under your control will be granted their independence, and together we will form a new interstellar covenant, one based on mutual respect rather than dominance and fear." "And if we refuse?" asked a Council elder, his silver eyes narrowing. Susan answered simply, "The rebellion has already succeeded on 27 worlds. Your fleet is outmatched not just by our weapons but by our allies. You have a choice between a new future where you have a seat at the table or continued war which you cannot win." For beings accustomed to giving orders rather than receiving ultimatums, this was a bitter moment. But faced with the reality of their crumbling empire, the Council leaders had no choice but to agree. As the former Council leaders signed the agreement, many in stunned disbelief, Frank looked at Susan. "In just over a year, we've gone from an isolated planet to a galactic power," he said quietly. Susan smiled. "Not through conquest, but through our unique ability to adapt, to cooperate, and to turn desperate circumstances into triumph." On Earth, people celebrated as news of the agreement reached them. Former enemies embraced as citizens of one world. Schools and hospitals reopened in areas reclaimed from alien control. And in laboratories across the planet, scientists worked with alien technology to solve humanity's oldest problems: hunger, disease, pollution. The Galactic Council had declared war on Earth, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant whose fury was matched only by its determination to forge a better future among the stars. As Admiral Susan Banks looked out at the alien world from the Council chamber window, she thought of how far humanity had come, and how far they would go now that the stars themselves were within reach.